In this video, we're going to look at why multiplying the numerator and the denominator of a fraction by the same number results in an equivalent fraction. So let's take the fraction 2/3. If we multiply that by 2 over 2, the same number in the numerator and the denominator, we get 4/6, and 4/6 and 2/3 are actually the exact same fraction, just looking a little bit differently. We can do the same thing with any two numbers right here, like 5 over 5. I could have done 6 over 6. I could have done 1,000,000 over 1,000,000. When we multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same numbers right here, we will end up with an equivalent fraction. And there's actually a pretty simple explanation why. So let's say we have the number 5 and we multiply 5 by 1, we get 5. If we have the number 18 and we multiply the number by 18 by 1, we get 18. If we have the number 63,000 and we multiply that by 1, we get 63,000. So we can say anytime we have a number that I'll call n, and we multiply n times 1, we are left with n, our original number. And this is actually something called the identity property of multiplication. So if we look back at our fractions, what we're really doing here when we have 2 over 2, 2 over 2 is equal to 1 whole, because 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So what we really just did here is we multiplied 2/3 times 1 whole, and if we multiply 2/3 times 1 whole, the identity property says that we will get the same number we began with. 2/3 times 1 equals 2/3. Now this doesn't look like 2/3, this says 4/6, but all we're actually really doing here is we're splitting 2/3 into more pieces. So these two pieces we're splitting into 4 pieces. These 3 pieces we're splitting into 6 pieces. You've done this many times with probably food and money. Money is probably the easiest example to think of, that if you have 50 cents, you can exchange if you can exchange 2 quarters for 5 dimes. You can exchange 5 dimes for 10 nickels. You can exchange 10 nickels for 50 pennies. They are all exactly the same value. They look different because they've been split into different parts. Your 50 cents has been split into different groups or different parts, but the value is exactly the same. That's what's going on right here. 2/3 and 4/6 have the exact same value. So remember that anytime you are multiplying a fraction by a number that is the same in the numerator and in the denominator, what you're really doing is you're multiplying that fraction by 1 whole. And the identity property of multiplication says that when we multiply any number by 1 whole, we are left with that exact same number. So 2/3 by any version right here of 1 whole will always equal 2/3. It will just look a little bit different. Just like if we exchange 50 pennies for 5 dimes, 50 pennies is more parts, just like this fraction right here, but 50 pennies and 5 dimes have the same value.